It has been an eye-opener experience. I'm so glad I've done this. And remember that you can always edit a messy draft. You cannot edit a blank page. Hello, my fellow writers. Welcome to Fantasy Forge, where we talk all things writing. I'm Skeeter Mori, and we are about to hop into a hot topic. 5 things I wish I knew before I started writing a novel. I started writing 7 years ago, and while that does not make me a master, I have learned quite a few things over the years. And I'm here to help you not make those same mistakes. One thing I wish someone had told me when I started writing is to have patience. I did not realize how long writing a full story, a full novel, would take. It took me 3 years to even finish my first rough draft of my novel. I just wanted it to be done. I was ready. I was over it. It was an amazing journey, but I did not realize how much patience it took. I was so eager to post and share my story with the world that sometimes I would just send my friends the unedited chapters. And while they were so encouraging and sweet and thoughtful, I cringe at the very thought of it now, and it's very humbling. But I would say the lesson I would take away is to take your time writing. Don't push yourself or burn yourself out. Just write at your own pace. You will finish your story eventually. Just breathe, write, and write some more. Nobody told me about number 2, which is perseverance. No one told me that writing was hard. And I'm here to tell you that writing is hard. And if you are struggling, it is okay. It's completely normal, and you are not alone. I have always struggled with the mid-marathon, and it's always been my breaking point. I have written several ideas, gotten to about 8, 9, 10 chapters, and I would just stop because I had no idea where the book was headed. No clue, nothing, nada. I finally finished my first novella about 4 years ago. And that was one of the greatest and hardest accomplishments ever. It was so great, the feeling afterwards, but it was also really hard because I was in pantser back then, and I had no clue what I was doing. I had only been writing for about 3 to 4 years at that point, and I learned a lot through that first book, but I kept writing, and I stayed writing, and that's what got me through. So if you learned anything from number 2, is writing is hard, but stay strong. It'll all work out in the end. Number 3 is outlining and planning. Okay, I know what you're thinking. What if you're a pantser? Does this apply to me? Yes, it absolutely does, because back when I started writing, I was a hardcore pantser. You could not get me to write an outline. I was not going to do it. However, 7 years of failed ideas has taught me one thing, and it is outlining works. Having a solid plan works for me. It may not for you. However, I find that I actually finish the story if I know where I'm going, because that gives me an idea and something to look forward to. Now, this is not for everyone. If you're beginning, just try a brief outline. Start with a simple 1-line or 2-line sentence of the beginning, middle, and end. However, if you want to dive deeper into it, you can find tons of plotting methods on YouTube, Pinterest, any author website. It's out there. So, I suggest if you struggle with just writing an outline, just start out basic. Find out where you're going, or at least have a vague idea. That way, when you get to the mid-marathon of your book, you don't quit. Just use a brief outline. Doesn't have to be anything fancy, but if you want to get fancy, go for it. Just use an outline. I promise you it will save your story during the mid-marathon. Number 4 is a little silly. However, I was 12 when I started writing, so please keep that in mind. Number 4 is I didn't know you were allowed to have more than one draft. It was really an eye-opener when I found this out, because I had just finished my novella that I'd been working on for 2.5 years. So it was a big thing, because I knew it needed a lot of work and a lot of attention. I never did edit that story because it's just, I will never publish it. It was just a fun, silly story for myself. However, it has taught me that it is okay to have a messy first draft. You can have as many messy first drafts as you want. You can have as many drafts and re-edits as you want. There's no limit on that. If you think it needs improvement and you feel like you could do better, do it. That's what I've learned when I'm currently editing my first novel. It's been a big eye-opener because it is a lot of work. And I'm not even done editing the first chapter. But it is a rewarding process so far, and I wouldn't trade it for the world, because I can edit a full novel. That's not something everyone can say. Usually people give up. I'm here to tell you, do not give up. You can have more than one draft. It is okay. And something else that I've learned recently is that you can have a draft 0. Now, draft 0 is basically your outline, your plot, or just a summary of your book. For me, it looks like a scene-by-scene outline for each chapter. This has been an amazing tool for writing, because before I start a chapter, I can read over my scene structure and my summary, and I have an idea of where I'm at. So it takes a lot of the guesswork and a lot of the, what am I going to do this time out of it? And it's a lot more productive, and it's just been an amazing experience because I can go back to the entire scene structure outline for my plot, and I can edit there versus having to re-edit the entire story when I'm mid-novel through. It's been just amazing. So this lesson is, it is okay to have a messy first draft. There will be others. Work your way from the ground up. It's gonna be okay. Number 5 is one that I dread the most. Guess what that is? Editing! Yes, I have never been a fan of editing. I would not trade the experience for the world, but it is not my favorite part of writing. You don't necessarily have to like editing in order to be able to write. You can hate editing, and still read a novel. I've done it. Now, one of the things that I struggle with when editing, even to this day, is majoring in the minors. I will get so caught up on sentence structure that I forget about scene structure. This has been a struggle for me since the beginning, and I've realized that sometimes it's better to go through your first edit with a developmental editing mind. Focus on your story's overall plot, overall structure, and then you can start majoring in the minors after you fixed all the developmental things. I have tried editing on the computer. It is not my favorite way. I prefer printing out a chapter and editing line by line like that, or scene structure line chapter by chapter. That's my favorite way. Some people prefer to get a whole new document and edit that way, or they like to print out the entire book and edit that way. There's so many different ways you can do it. It's limitless. You can do it however you want and just find the method that you prefer and you enjoy. I like to get out some paper and my little pens and get different color codes. I am that type of person. But you can do it on the computer. You can highlight or whatever you want. I know Scrivener's really good about editing. It shows what you've edited versus what you had before. I've never used Scrivener, but I've heard praises about it all the time. Now, if you get anything out of this part, don't get stuck in the miry world of editing, because you can get trapped in the mindset of, my book will never be good enough. It will. Just keep going, keep editing. It'll be okay. Someone is waiting for your book. And that is all today, folks. Thank you so much for joining Fantasy Forge. I am your host, Skeeter Mori, and I hope to see you on the next episode. Thank you for listening. Please leave a comment, question, and I will get back to those as soon as I can. You can find me on YouTube and Pinterest at Skeeter Mori. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a blessed day. Keep writing.